Yeah, I'm just letting everyone know that we are recording this session. So if you don't want to be seen, then you can just switch your camera off.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Yay. Hi, Judith. How are you? Sorry, we'll just have to unmute when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, how are you?
Really well, thank you. Nice to hear from you. Hi, Maria. I mean, I don't know all of these people, but I'm going to say good day.
Hi, Fiona. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Joining us from UNSW, is it? I recognize the yellow.
So Maria is the other convener of this SIG with Will, actually. So,
Fabulous.
yeah, one of the brains behind the session.
It's nice to meet you. We've been emailing. And Josie, beautiful background. I love the colors and the hairpiece. Fantastic.
Hi, Fiona.
Of the flowers. I feel like I want to put my filter on. I've got those flowers too somewhere. Yeah, there we go. Matchy matchy.
Okay, should we maybe make a start? That looks great, Fiona.
Yeah, sorry. Go for it, Will.
Yeah, okay. So we've got 41. I'm sure we'll still see people coming in. Yeah, so hi everyone, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. For those of you I haven't met, my name is Will Alderton, and I'm the Director of Studies at CQU English and also the convener of the Direct Entry Program SIG. So yeah, it's a real pleasure to introduce this session today, which is called Interaction Matters, Engaging Speaking Activities for Online Language Classes. So when the SIG conveners met earlier in the year, we decided we really wanted to at least dedicate one session purely for teachers, because we know it's all of you who've been putting in the hard yards and learning all these new skills the past 18 months. So we really wanted to organise a session for you. So before I hand over, I'd like to briefly introduce our two speakers. We have Fiona Wiebusch, who is a Director and Teacher Development Specialist at the Queensland Institute in Brisbane. Fiona's been involved in language education since 1998, working across the secondary and tertiary sectors as a teacher, trainer and academic manager. She has extensive experience on direct entry programs, as well as leading pre-service and in-service teacher education programs for institutions and ministries of education in more than 20 countries. And our second presenter is Philippa Coleman, who has also been in the industry for a long time and has extensive experience teaching and training in multiple contexts, including in Australia, Asia, Europe, the Middle East, and Latin America. She's worked with international teachers in the areas of English language teaching, content and language integrated learning, and English as a medium of instruction. Philippa is also a CELTA trainer and assessor, and is currently the Director and Teacher Training Specialist at the Queensland Institute in Brisbane. So with that, thank you again for taking an hour out of your afternoon to join us. I hope you enjoy the session, and I'll hand over to Fiona and Philippa.
Thank you very much, Will. Well, it's lovely to be here with everybody today. And thank you to the team at English Australia and Sophie, and to yourself, Will, and to Maria as well for inviting us to join you this afternoon. We're delighted to be here. And we're going to kick things off. So my name is Fiona Wiebusch, as Will mentioned earlier, and I'm joined by Philippa Coleman. Give us a little wave, Philippa.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon.
Lovely to see you all. And just let me know in the chat, is everyone able to see my slides now? Fantastic. Okay. So we're here this afternoon to talk to you about why we feel interaction matters in the virtual classroom or the online classroom, and in particular sharing some engaging speaking activities that we have found in our experience have worked well for us in EAP classes in particular, mostly drawing on our experiences of direct entry programs from our time at the University of Queensland. And we're pleased to see some of our colleagues from UQ here with us today. Watch out, I will probably be calling on you guys. So the abstract is here for those of you who might be joining us a little bit later or watching online. But we're really wanting to respond to how teachers are tackling the shift from the physical to the virtual classroom and engaging their learners in speaking activities, in particular about how we can encourage students to speak in open class session, and also some strategies that we've found successful for getting students to work together in breakout rooms and keep the conversations going. So it is going to be quite an active session. We will get you all warmed up, and I'm pleased to see that some people have their cameras on because I'm going to be asking you to call out and join in some of the speaking activities today. We'll be demoing some of the activities rather than just talking about them, and encouraging you to participate before we reflect on some of the principles that we found helpful to reflect on ourselves in what was helping us to make these activities work in our own classrooms. I'll be back to you for some group work and some breakout room time yourself to share how you are responding to the challenges of encouraging students to speak in your online classrooms as well. If we have time at the end, there'll be an opportunity for some Q&A. We will also be sharing everything from the session today, the slides and all the digital tools that we'll be working with later today. One of those tools is Padlet. We're going to be using that today. It stores all of our materials for the session, and I will give you access a little bit later. But just give me a quick wave. How many of you are very familiar with Padlet? Let me know. Yes, some are, some aren't. So that's great. There'll be enough of you in your breakout rooms later that you can help and assist each other. So let's get started. The first challenge we want to respond to is encouraging some plenary participation. And now that we are all together in a plenary room, I'm going to call on some of you to join me as my students might. When we begin the day together, I don't know about you, but I'm encouraging my students to switch on their cameras and show me their faces. And I'm looking for ways to get them talking and chatting as to sort of simulate those experiences we used to have in the physical classroom of arriving and chatting and being all together for a few minutes. So the first activity I'm going to get you to engage in, I would love to see some faces. If you're feeling comfortable enough to switch on, we would love to see you. So just for a few minutes, that would be terrific. But we understand some may not. That's okay for today. All righty. So the first thing I do with my students, as I'm sure you do too, is simply greet them as they are arriving. But I don't know about you, when I first moved to online teaching, I felt like I was just a nominating machine, calling names and getting people to reply to me. And then I stopped myself doing that and started thinking about, you know, I never used to do that in the physical classroom. What was I doing there? So I went back and pulled out a golden oldie activity from the face-to-face classroom and gave it a whirl in the online space. So we're going to do this together now. But I need you to help me get to the name of this activity. I need a word. I'm looking for an Olympic sport that has a green table, a little net, and it sounds a bit like this. Any ideas? Table tennis, good job, Bernard and Kristen and Rhonda. Fantastic. Ping pong, quite like ping pong, we're going to use that. Ping pong is the name of the activity, and here's how it works. I'm going to begin by saying my name, and no, not my name. I'm going to call somebody else's name and say, "G'day, how's it going?" And ping pong the greeting over to somebody else. And then they are going to simply do the same thing. Respond to the greeting, call it another name, ping pong it around the room. Philippa, let's do an example together. Are you ready? G'day, Philippa. How's it going?
G'day, Fiona. I'm going well.
Fantastic. Philippa, can you ping pong the greeting to somebody else in the room?
G'day, Alice. How you going?
Hi, Philippa. A long time no see.
Long time no see.
I'm not bad. I might just ask Meredith. Meredith, you look like you're in the jungle today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How about Liz? How are you?
Apart from being muted, I'm good, thank you.
And Liz, can you pass it on to someone else? Call a name and give them a greeting.
Jess. Hi, how are you?
I hope I'm the only Jess. It's not always the case. Hi, Liz.
You're the only one I can see.
I'm really well. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you.
Great. I might call on Tim. Hi, Tim. How are you going?
Is that this, Tim? Hi. I'm good. I'm on my home computer. Hopefully you can hear my voice because my work one decided to update itself. So I'm good. Just a little bit in a different location. I will call on Adam. How are you?
Hey Tim, how's it? All good. Glad to hear you well. And I'm going to ping and pong to my dear friend Fong. Oi. Fong, I can't hear you.
Sorry, the classic mistake. Lovely to see you here, Adam. How are you going?
I'm fantastic. It's lovely to see you, Fong.
Yeah,
Are you going to have enough pencils for this session?
Yep. So the person that I would like to say hi to is Janet Bourgeois. How are you today, Janet?
Last one.
Hi guys. Hi Fong. Hi Adam. Adam, how come you didn't say hello to me too?
I didn't see.
Left out.
Had I seen you, I would have just ignored Fong and said hello to you. Lovely to see you, Janet.
All right, Steve, I'm going to have to hold you there because unfortunately we won't get around to all of the people here. But as you can see, I think it will get things going. I'm sure you may have tried it with your students, but I'm looking for ways to, and maybe you can share some more alternatives where I stop nominating all the time and encouraging students to nominate each other and move the greeting or the questions around the room. A simple and quick way to get them comfy in the plenary space, get them unmuting and voices on. All right, I feel like you did very well with that one. We're ready for another challenge now. The next activity to encourage plenary participation is something I like to call all together now. So for my students, when we first moved online, there was a little bit of reticence about even just hearing their voices coming back to them. So I was looking for ways to minimize the fear factor around that. So we experimented with a number of activities, but this one in particular seemed to appeal. So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment, we're all going to unmute and talk for 20 seconds. You're going to tell me where you are, what you see around you, what you can hear, maybe what you can touch around you. The only thing is you have to keep talking constantly until we hit the magic 20 seconds. So we're going to say what you see, what you hear, what you can touch around you. Are you ready? Everybody unmute. It's going to be noisy and crazy. Here we go.
Everyone is keeping silent.
3, 2, 1. Let's talk all together now. Well, for me.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm
Sunroom.
That's pretty cool.
And
can just hear
making loads of noise behind me, which is why it's better to be on mute. A couple of I'm enjoying the webinar. I like how
what else can I say? Not a record.
making me
Telephone. It's got a telephone.
because I'm trying to drink.
Crackers and kitchen table.
I'm sorry, it's a lovely little call people ring sometime.
There we go. We made it to 20 seconds. In fact, a little bit longer. Congratulations. Now I heard Meredith talking about a coffee mug. Meredith, can you unmute and tell me a little more about your coffee mug?
Was I talking about my coffee mug? I don't remember that. I was talking about my mouse, and I see James. Hi, James. Nice to see you. I was talking about my dogs. So I do have a coffee mug on my desk, actually, but it's empty. I wish there was coffee in it right now to wake me up.
I wish I had with me right now too.
It was me.
Sorry, Sue?
I think that was me.
Oh, okay.
Show us your mug, Sue. Show us your mug. Ooh, lovely. I like it. And hopefully this is what happens in your classroom too. I start the talk, and then I kind of pretend to talk and listen and try and pick out somebody that I heard something from and quickly do a follow-up, ask them to share a little bit more about it. So it's pure fluency, it's just vocalization, it's just starting to get us used to using our voices and hearing ourselves and hearing it coming back, but reducing the fear, because as you could hear, you can't hear the detail of what everybody is saying. However, I have noticed that some of my students, as we did this over time and we increased the time from 10 seconds to 20 seconds to 30 seconds, made it a bit more meaningful by thinking back, righto, yesterday we were talking about global warming. Today's All Together Now is your, the biggest sticking point for you from yesterday's conversation. Share your opinion about that. Keep the chat going. We're going to go for, how long are we doing today? 38 seconds. Okay, well, let's do it. Here we go, 38 seconds, off we go. And I had some students commenting that they found that, oh, this is actually quite helpful for my IELTS prep. I feel like I'm getting more comfortable to just keep talking for an extended term. So you never know what's going to come out of those things. But my intention was for them to feel comfortable, to vocalize, and to do that frequently and to get them switching on. So that one's called All Together Now. So we're still in the plenary stage of trying to encourage students to join us and switch on and unmute and speak. So the final little warm-up activity I'm going to share with you here is something I like to call tiny dancers. This is typically something I use when I have some questions for students or statements for them to respond to. And just like all of you, I'm going to give you a moment in your notebooks. Hopefully, as good students, you have your notebooks and a pen with you to simply think about. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to tell me about one typical speaking activity in your textbook that you're using right now in your programs. I'm going to ask you to tell me about how your students are interacting online at the moment. And I'm also going to ask you to tell me about one puzzle or problem. I tend to use puzzle, it's more positive. You hope to solve in this session. So take a moment now to think about how you might answer that. And then I'll pick on a few people to tell me. Role plays. Yes. Are they interacting well? Puzzle problem. I want to deal with the cameras. Okay. Righto. Have you all got your answers ready? Sometimes I find we have to shift the energy in the room to get my students feeling a little bit more active after lots of heads down time and getting ready to respond direct to plenary. Of course, we could give them an opportunity to check with their peer here, but for the sake of time, we're going to go straight to plenary. And I'm going to ask you to tell me your responses to some of these activities. And here's how Tiny Dances works. Remember those days when we used to play some music and ask the students to move around and mingle in the class, and when the music stops, you freeze and talk to the person next to you and share their answer? Well, Tiny Dances is the virtual equivalent. So first of all, we're just going to dance. I'm going to play a little music here. Actually, let me check. I am going to play some music. Yes, I am. And I want to see some dance moves. Now, like my students, they might not be big dancers, but they must be tiny dancers at least, and make their fingers move to indicate to me that they are dancing a little bit. If you're feeling more alive, go for it. You can dance big. But when the music stops, I'm going to ask someone to respond to their statements. Are we ready to dance? Let's see your moves. Here we go. And Judith, tell me about one typical speaking activity in your textbook.
Well, we don't actually have a textbook, but mine have to do oral presentations, analysing literature. So a literature presentation.
Fantastic. Any other people doing presentations? Give me a wave. Speaking activities. Nice one. All right, I'm going to pick on some more people. It's time for more music. 2 more questions to go. Let's go, dancers. And Harriet, tell me about how your students are interacting online at the moment.
We have a series of tutorial discussion lessons where students have to pre-read a text, and then they come to class and are put into a group and they need to discuss the text.
Yeah. Anybody else doing response to text discussions? Give me a little wave. Yeah, nice to see. We all have some things in common. Lovely. Well, you see how it goes. We play some music, we stop the music, we ask a question. And that's how Tiny Dances works. Thank you for sharing some of your ideas. We've heard from a few people, but we'd love to hear a little bit more in detail about your experiences. So I'm going to hand over to Philippa now, who's going to share a little bit more with us about our second challenge.
Thank you.
Challenge, Philippa.
Thank you. Well, our second challenge has been to encourage more speaking and more interaction in our breakout room discussions. So a solution that's worked well for us has been to establish routines in our classes, like Jamboard journalists. Now, I wonder who's familiar with Jamboard and has used it in their classes. Can you give me a wave or a thumbs up if you're familiar with Jamboard? See a few people waving. Okay, great. All right then. Well, for those of you who perhaps aren't familiar with it, Jamboard is a digital whiteboard. It's a display tool that allows students to record their interactions and their discussions collaboratively. So this is the Jamboard that we've prepared for the session. Okay. And for those of you who are not aware, this is the Jamboard. It's a series of screens, and There are many buttons here for the students to press and to play with, but we're going to use 2 of those today. So this is the sticky note, which you can use by clicking on that and write your name. Well, write your name on the sticky note and save it, and it will appear on the screen. Or I'll get you to write your name using a text box. Okay, write your name using a text box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the Jamboard link with you in the chat. I'd like you to open the Jamboard and please type your name either using a sticky note or using the text box. Okay, thanks Celia, Maria, Sophie, Josie, Randa, Judith, Meredith. Terrific. That's brilliant. Thanks everyone. That's great. Yeah, really good. Okay, great. Well done. The sticky notes seem to be more popular than the text box, but that's fine. So as Fiona mentioned, we'd like to hear your thoughts in relation to those questions that she was just showing you before. And so you're going to go work in a breakout room with some other people, and you're going to record your discussion on the Jamboard. So for example, this is for group 1. So let's discuss one typical speaking activity in your textbook, how your students interact online, and one puzzle or problem that you hope to solve in this session. Okay, so Fiona's set up some breakout rooms for us. And what I'd like you to do is when you join the breakout room, please make a note of the number. So if you're in group 1, you're going to go here with your group mates. If you're in group 3, this is the Jamboard that you'll go to. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm going to get Fiona, and maybe 3 minutes in the breakout room, I think. Oh, it's too, no, not enough, Fiona's saying. All right, it's
so good, so good.
Okay, well, 3 minutes in the breakout room. Sorry, it's a bit rushed. Okay, thanks, Fiona.
Okay, so you'll be meeting 3 or 4 other people. Enjoy your Jamboard. Make sure you record your discussion on the
I can see here as the teacher, this is a tip I've just learned from Fiona with Jamboard, that across the top here, I can see when the students are filling up their discussion boards and who's completing things. And I just wanted to show you this one, group 11, thank you. I've picked on group 11. So as a teacher, it's fantastic for me to see what the students are doing. If we had more time, I'd be asking someone from group 11 to tell us about their puzzle and why it's a problem for them. But as you can see, the Jamboard is a great way to focus and to, not for group 12, but to focus and to guide the discussion so that I can also see what's going on. Okay, I'm going to pass back to Fiona now, who's going to tell us some more ways in which we can establish routines in our classes.
Thank you, Philippa. So we've started getting our students comfy to engage in plenary participation. We're using some tools to help us get them connected and responding as a routine when they're in breakout rooms. And some other typical things that, again, come from our physical classroom practice days is using, once we've finished a listening activity, using the tape scripts, of course, as role plays to get a bit of controlled speaking happening. I know my students have really enjoyed that in the breakout room together, reenacting as a role play, listening, using digital board games in the same way, getting them to do something as they speak. But something that I forgot about when I first moved online was making sure I was still actually ensuring I had a variety of interaction patterns going on. I think it was more my nervousness of I'm like, okay, breakout room is a pair, and back here we go, and it's plenary, and back in the room is a pair. And that's kind of all I was doing for a while. And then again, going back to the basics and thinking, well, that's not what I did in the physical classroom. So something that I've returned to is good old pair square discussions, promoting peer learning. What I mean by that is, for example, my students, Ashley and Sarota, were a pair in their jigsaw activity, and they were responding to a reading or responding to a literary text and learning what they needed to learn from that to go out and then break into a square and to meet other class members and to talk to each other and teach each other what they had learned. And this became a routine for us in that Ashley and Sarota were often together, especially in courses over a period of time. They might stay together for 2 weeks, and so did their square. So what I noticed is that they actually got better at teaching each other what they needed to know, from their jigsaw activities in a pair out to their square of comfort and sharing what they learned. And this was me looking quite smug on one occasion of, oh, they're all talking and I can't get them to come back to the main room. So just a reminder to myself to mix up those interaction patterns and establish those routines, just as we always did in the physical classroom. So I'm going to hand back to Philippa now, who's going to talk to us about our final challenge. That's all great. I can get them talking, but I actually don't have a lot of time for them to do some talking in my packed curriculum. So how do we find the time to talk, Philippa?
So yes, that was our third challenge, was how can we increase the interaction and find time to talk inside and outside the classroom. So Friday Flipgrid, that was something that we've used. Again, can I have a wave of those of you who are familiar with Flipgrid, a digital response tool? Okay, how many am I seeing waving? Can you wave again? Yeah, okay, or a thumbs up. Okay, thanks. Well, let's have a look at a short video of how it actually kind of works.
Welcome to Flipgrid, a video discussion experience from Microsoft. In this video, we'll provide everything you need to know to get started as a student. First, you'll need to access your class topic. Click the link or enter the code you received from your educator on the free Flipgrid app or on any computer with a webcam via the Microsoft Edge or Google Chrome browser at flipgrid.com. Log into Flipgrid using your school account by clicking the Microsoft or Google login. Read the topic discussion prompt. You can click this button to launch Microsoft's Immersive Reader, which provides powerful reading assistance. Watch the topic media, explore any links, and then, when you're ready, click to add a video. Flipgrid's camera is filled with powerful tools to help tell your story. You can add a filter, frame, text, emoji, ink, and draw on a board. You can upload images or even videos from your camera roll. Record, review, and re-record as many times as you would like. You can screen record and stitch together multiple clips. When you're ready, click Next, snap a selfie, and then click Submit. Watch a video.
Yeah. So that gives you a little idea. It's a fabulous digital tool. Friday Flipgrid, you set it up on a Friday, they engage in an interaction task. If you ask them to record a couple of questions at the end for their peers, it prompts a response from their peers as well. So it requires them to listen and to respond to their peers. And this can be done asynchronously outside of the classroom. Another one, an oldie but a goodie, conversation club. You know, we've all done that in our physical classrooms, but it can be setting aside regular time to talk. After I've done it once or twice with my students, I'll then ask for volunteers for them to set up the activity, choose the topic, set the questions, and maybe it's just 10 minutes in a breakout room regularly, one day a week. Guest speakers. I always used to invite guest speakers to my physical classroom. It was really, really motivating for students to have a real live person coming into their classroom. Well, they can still do that. I'd like to share a little anecdote with you of a former colleague at ICTE who did this really brilliantly, I think, in her classroom. They were doing a topic of fashion and entrepreneur. And so she used her local Brisbane networks and she invited someone to come in to the class to actually speak to the class for about 20 minutes on Zoom, of course. To prepare for that, she set them up with a class Padlet. She got them to research who this person was and what this person did. And then they had the opportunity to ask the questions that they wanted to ask and engage in this authentic interaction. It was terrifically motivating and I thought it was an excellent example. And then finally, there might be something like the radio dramas. Remember the radio dramas where we all sat round the wireless and listened to people read out their scripts and their plays? Well, this is also something that you can do with their students. They can use a fantastic tool like Vocaroo to make a podcast, and it brings this back to the classroom. It can happen inside the classroom or outside the classroom, and students can listen and respond to each other's recordings. So those are some of the ways in which we've found opportunity to increase interaction in our classrooms. Over to you now, Fiona.
Thanks, Philippa. And I think you might have heard us keep referring back to, well, what were we doing in the physical classroom? And I think that's what we went back to whenever we found a struggle in our practice when we shifted online, was to think back to even some of the classic principles of how to teach speaking. For example, we went back to Thornbury's How to Teach Speaking Text and was like, well, what is it again that we need to do to encourage people to speak in the language classroom? So we started questioning what we were doing in terms of productivity, purposefulness, authenticity, challenge, importantly, interactivity. Do the students have to work together to complete the task? Is there a genuine information gap? As Philippa mentioned, it was things like that that made us think back to, oh yeah, getting a guest speaker in, that created the authentic gap for students to be motivated to ask somebody a question because they genuinely wanted to know the answer. So that started to trigger some more ideas for us. But in particular, in our virtual classes, the thing that we would add to all of this now is creativity. What we noticed the most was that students were engaging, particularly in their breakout rooms, when they had an opportunity to create a visual product to display their interaction or their conversation. So just as you did in your Jamboard demonstration, we looked for other tools to help them to do that. Maybe creating an infographic together as they went through their conversations about, you know, the problems and solutions of global warming, or creating responses on Padlet. So they were recording their discussions as they went along. Google Docs, or recording on Vocaroo and hearing their voices come back as a podcast and interviewing each other. All of these creative ideas were helping them to progress and stay engaged in their conversations, even inside the virtual class time, but it took them away from being on camera and on screen as a plenary discussion. They could be working together in their breakout rooms. Was that your experience too, Philippa?
Yeah, it was. So now it's time for a task, but we're actually not going to have very long for it, I'm afraid. But my experience was that really what future employers are going to want is not just students who can speak well. They're going to want students who can listen and respond, who can collaborate, who can use digital media, who can negotiate. These are all the life skills that future employers are going to want of their employees. So by doing these creative tasks like creating a Jamboard or creating a podcast or something like that, or a Canva or an infographic, it's helping to give them the skills to be able to do that. So we're going to, I don't know if we've got time. What do you think, Fiona? Have we got time to do a little bit of the task?
I think so. I think that we could do 5 or 6 minutes here before we return together.
Okay, great. So in a moment, we'll go back into breakout rooms and review some material, some excerpts from Unlock 3, okay? It's a reading and writing book, and they're not, which I'm sure you're probably familiar with, but it's the reading and writing, it's not the listening and speaking. And the activities that we've selected are not all speaking activities. So what we're going to ask you to do is to review the excerpts and think about what we've talked about today and Thornbury's principles, and see how we can adapt the task to incorporate speaking, to increase interactivity and promote creativity. So that's our task.
And in fact, I wonder if we focus just on the last one, imagining that you're getting your students to conduct the speaking activity. What's the creative display or output that they could share from doing that speaking interaction?
From activity 5?
Sure.
Okay, grand. All right then. So we're going to go, people in your breakout room will know how to operate the Padlet, but when you've had a look at the material, then you can discuss it and add your comment here and see if we can just get a few ideas about how we're going to do that. So I'll stop share. Here's the, in the chat now, I'll put the link into the chat for the Padlet. And as Fiona said, activity 5, a few.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh, look, there's never enough time, is there? But we're delighted that you had a brief opportunity to share some ideas together. And of course, the beauty of Padlet is that you can continue to have a look around there. And maybe not today, maybe tomorrow, so that you have a chance to have a think for yourself. I'll post some sample ideas from things that have worked well for us in our classrooms for those specific activities. Literally teaching those parts of the text, and you'll see how we've incorporated some of the things like Flipgrids and Vocaroos and some of the tools, but really to underpin those principles of speaking, coming back to interactivity and to creativity now, of getting students to display their interactions, something that's worked well for us. But we are coming to the end of our time together so far. So I would like to share the master Padlet with you, you'll notice there are lots of things to click out to in additional resources from some of the things we've mentioned that have worked for us, like some games for board games and roll the dice activities and things there too. And importantly, there's a little Q&A section here. So if you'd like to keep the conversation going, we would love to hear from you. And we would love you to post your question to us, or if you'd like to know more about something we've mentioned today, we can continue there asynchronously with you in the chat, the Padlet. I'll change the settings shortly and you'll be able to respond to us there. But on behalf of Philippa and I from the Queensland Institute, we would like to say thank you so much for having us today and letting us share a few of the things that worked well for us. We would love to hear more from you. I can see some questions in the chat. I'm happy.
One really important one. How do you play music without sharing your screen?
That is a good question. I actually am sharing my screen. So I have it up in my Google Chrome browser. I just have it hidden behind the other tabs, and I'm using Google Chrome's browser play button. Maybe I can show you just up here. There's a little Chrome extension for YouTube so that the tab itself is hidden here. And when I'm looking at other things, I can still press play.
No, but when we came back from the breakout room, you weren't sharing your screen and yet you were playing music.
I've just enabled my Zoom settings so that I can always have access to. I just upgraded my Zoom yesterday too. So I noticed Zoom is getting better at letting us do things like that. So give it a try, update your Zoom and you might have a few more features too. Delighted because I cannot teach without music. Thank you so much. I'm happy to stay for a little while. I'm mindful that others might need to head off. We appreciate your time and would love to hear more from you on the Padlet.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Try out
Thanks,
your
Fiona and Philippa. That was great.
Thank you, guys. See you later.
Thank you,
Fiona. Thank you, Philippa. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. All together now. Let's say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Adios. Hasta la vista.
Adios.
Bye.
Adios. Sí.
Ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Hasta el próximo.
Hasta la próxima.
Thanks so much, Meredith.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, Meredith.
Bye. That was so interesting. Amazing. It inspires me to try to use more functions of Padlet. I only use it when students go in the breakout group and they write on it. For example, if they're doing like error correction or something like that. But I haven't really used it with the way you have. I don't really know how to do that.
It's called shelves. So
Okay.
that's how you get the columns.
Okay.
And there's another really nice one I think you'd like, which is called connector.
Okay.
So you can have little posts all around and then choose which post it connects to.
Okay.
So that's a new one too that students like. Great for critical thinking, getting them to put ideas together for an essay or something.
Okay. Because I've never had them, upload images. I've just used a really basic wrote, the columns, but just where I have like group 1, group 2, group 3, and then, for example, they're paraphrasing and then they write their paraphrase, and then I can display tablet when I'm in the main room and use like the annotation and circle things, that's the only way I've used it really. But I'm inspired. But I'm inspired by what you've done here. This is really, really good. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Thank you. See you later.
Nice
Bye.
to see you, Meredith.
Thanks.
Bye,
Nice to see you
Meredith.
guys. Bye.
Yay. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks, Rhonda.
Thanks. Yeah, I need to run. Sorry, I've got to our class later on, and I need a bit of a screen break. It's been a long screen day. But yeah, no, that was really great. Thanks. That was sort of exactly the kind of thing we were hoping for. So
yeah. Look, we always